Hi, Ben here from Premier Events in Leicester, and welcome to the Premier Studio and our event as part of Leicester Business Festival, How to Create Amazing Events in the New Normal. So here's a quick summary of what we're going to be talking about this morning. So there'll be a quick summary about Premier and the people here on the stage with me, which you'll see shortly. There'll be a discussion about events in the current climate, what we can and can't do at the minute. Then we're going to look into detail at hybrid studios, on-location hybrid events, virtual events, platforms, how to drive home delegate engagement, all of the lessons we've learned over the last, 6 months or so, as well as a really big Q&A session at the end of the event. I'm hoping that you guys will get lots of value out of the presentation, but also just by asking us your questions at the end, so you can do that in Zoom using the comment section at the bottom. So, who are Premier Events? What do we do? And who's here with me today? So, welcome to the stage. I've got Jonathan Minns to my right, and I've got Francesca Horn to my left.
Hello.
Hello.
So guys, we'll start with you, John.
So thanks, Ben. I'm the technical director, and I've been here for 10 years now, so pretty much from day one. I head up the production team, so we look after all technical production, AV, IT networking, and we're doing a lot of work finding solutions for virtual events and hybrid productions. So yeah, it's a fun time for us at the moment.
Yeah, it certainly is exciting times at the minute. And on my left, I feel like Keith Lemon.
Do you?
Yeah, doing the quiz round. On my left is Francesca Horn.
Hello. Hi, Ben. So I am the event director here at Premier. I've been here slightly less time than these two, for about 3.5 years now, and I lead the event management team. And we kind of offer an end-to-end service for our clients from start to finish of events, from that initial briefing and coming up with concepts and ideas for what it is that they might like to deliver, all the way through on-site contract management, speaker liaisons, delegate management, like really a full package, one-stop event shop. That's us.
Yeah, it's kind of everything really, isn't it?
It is.
What makes Premier unique as a company is that we have in-house both production and event management. So we can kind of take a client brief and look after the whole end-to-end journey, which has actually been one of the best things we've ever done. We thought about just doing one or the other, but actually having both teams working together kind of sounds really cheesy, but it's kind of, it works.
Well, it works really well. Like, we can have mad ideas with our clients and then hop over to John and say, oh, God, can we actually do this, John? And luckily, he's always able to sort it out and make it happen.
Always a happy response.
Yeah.
Always a yes.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it is.
Yeah.
So about Premier Events, just to give you a bit of a background, I've been doing this since I left university, so what am I now, 37, so that's, my maths isn't good. When you leave uni, 21, 31, 15, 16 years?
It's pretty much your life.
Yeah, I'm pretty committed to this events industry. Started out as a DJ doing mobile discos at primary schools, kind of then did some clubs, and then kind of did dance floors and got into more weddings and did some dance floors and some staging, and then kind of met John, and we kind of started, John kind of came on board to work with us maybe 10 years ago now.
Yeah, it's exactly, probably just over 10 years now.
Initially from my garage. Didn't go too well with my girlfriend at the time. Didn't like the fact that we had 10 6-foot round tables in my 3-bed semi-kitchen. Wasn't an ideal situation really. So we ended up kind of moving to an industrial unit on Wanstead Road in Leicester. And then from then really, 10 years ago when John came on board, every year the jobs that we've kind of done have just get bigger and bigger.
It's been great because the clients have grown along with us and we've grown with the clients.
So just to give you an idea on the kind of stuff that we do at Premier, we made a quick 90-second video that just kind of shows you the events we used to do before lockdown. So before the whole events world got completely turned upside down, really. Just as a warning for you, there are people in this video together having fun. There's no hand sanitizer, there's no face masks. And it's a hark back to a happier time, maybe. Well, not even maybe. It was like when people could have fun. So yeah, we'll show you a quick 90-second video, and then we'll return to talk about our pivot to digital, which hopefully you guys will find helpful. Roll the video. So it's quite nostalgic watching that back, really, but there were good times.
I miss it.
But the world has changed, and digital, live, virtual events and hybrid events are here to stay.
Yeah.
And actually, we're really excited about it. So
That's true. Well, I mean, we've seen some really good stuff that we used to do, but we're as excited, if not more, a little bit about what we're doing now, because it's new.
yeah,
We haven't done it before.
it's certainly keeping us on our toes. So let's have a quick chat about how we kind of got to this studio, really. What was the journey to get here? So let's talk about our pivot to digital. Put up a nice little picture here. So back in, as you know, March, when the world kind of ended for the event sector. It's not too over the top, is it?
Oh, it definitely ended. It really ended.
Crashed, banged out.
Yeah. So we had all of our events for the year just cancel within about 2 weeks, which was
It was catastrophic.
it was quite a depressing place to be. Had quite a number of sleepless nights thinking, what are we going to do next? And we kind of initially thought, oh, it'll only be a few weeks, and then events will come back, jobs for the summer will be fine, jobs for October, they'll definitely be fine. That's not a problem.
How wrong we were.
Yeah,
Absolute
how wrong we were. But back in kind of early April, middle of April, we kind of said, let's do something different. Let's try and... We just wanted to do something. We were bored of working at home, weren't we, really?
Yeah, I mean, there's only so long that events people could sit still for, as I'm sure a lot of you will be aware. Like, we got itchy feet, we needed to make something, we needed to build and move and get going. So Ben had this idea to build a studio, and we just went with it.
Yeah, it was...
But we didn't know this was going to be a thing. it was one of Ben's ideas, which he normally comes good with. But
not all the time.
Generally,
It's
I think
got a
generally.
high success rating.
Let's build a studio. So we did that, and it was really hard work because we hadn't moved anything for quite a while.
Yeah, we were all quite unfit, weren't we?
Everyone was, all the rest of the staff was still on furlough, so there was just a few of us doing it.
Yeah, it was. The benefit, I guess, was that everything was in the warehouse. We just managed to go, right, let's put some truss up, and we went to the area of the warehouse where the truss was kept and put that up, and let's get some video wall, and we found that. We weren't really sure, if we're being completely honest, what we thought would happen in this studio that we built. At the time, it was like one of the best in the UK. I think that's a bit big-headed to say that, but there wasn't anything else
There wasn't
really out there.
No.
But then other students quickly started to follow, didn't they?
Yeah.
We saw more and more and more event studios popping up all over the place. So,
Which was nice. We knew we were on the right lines, but we knew that we could build something bigger and better.
Yeah, I think we quite quickly realised that it wasn't quite what we wanted it to be.
No, we almost built it as an event space and not a proper studio. We kind of
And we had a few events in it.
Yeah, true.
We had DJs in, we had bands, we had Nathan Dawes and KSI come in to do a promo shot. We had
The dance
we had a
schools.
dance school in, yeah. So it was being used, just not in the way that we saw that it should be used in the future for our sort of existing client base, and it wasn't providing the service that we wanted to ultimately offer them.
Yeah, it was very much party stuff, not corporate. And our background is corporate, so it was quite nice. It made a nice change, but we knew that when September came and kind of corporate events normally kick back into life in September after the summer holiday, we had to build something different, and so we built this, which is a pretty epic studio. We'll give you a little tour later on and show you around it.
Yeah, this one came together really quickly. We did a lot of learning with Studio 1.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember we got a CAD plan of the warehouse and just went, well, what if we just cut this warehouse in half, and what if we wanted to get it done by next week, ready for this show?
Yeah.
And they said it couldn't be done.
Yeah.
Oh, but it was.
Yeah, and the main differences are that we, at every step of the way, we thought about what does it look like down the lens of a camera.
Yes.
Where can we get people? How many people can we get in this area? Where are we going to put the cameras?
And how can we make it COVID safe as well? A lot of planning went into sizes of things, entrances to the building, spaces for guests that were going to be coming in and using the space as well. It was like safety was top priority, and having it look good on camera.
Yeah, I guess the COVID guidelines were all out by then, so we knew how to build this. Because we also knew that if it wasn't safe, people wouldn't come.
No.
So let's look at the events that, in the current climate, we're able to deliver for our clients. So it boils down to about 4 options. So we've got hybrid events in a studio, such as this. Hybrid events on location, so either at a hotel or a venue or private residence, for example. We've got virtual events, as well as Zoom or team calls, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, having been using Zoom since, you've been using it most days, haven't you, really?
Yeah, there's been a real shift in the way that we don't pick up the phone anymore.
No, it's calls, Zoom.
It's all scheduled Zoom calls.
Yeah. And it works quite nicely in the sense that you know where your day is. You're not just losing half an hour on the phone randomly. You've got blocks of space.
It seems a bit odd now that we would get in the car and drive to a meeting, like 2 hours away to meet someone, because it's just become normal to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm spending a lot less on fuel, which is great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great for my expenses. No, it's certainly been a change. But actually, we've realised there's a lot of value in a Zoom and a Teams call, and we, as a business, we're using them for doing demos, speaking to suppliers, freelancers.
Yeah, I'm doing updates for the rest of the team as well. When we didn't have everyone in, we were kind of using that as a way to keep in touch with all of our guys, and that's very similar to what a lot of clients want to be doing as well. Is that reason they're thinking about having a virtual event at all, or a hybrid one, is to get back in touch with their remote teams.
Yeah. But yeah, so Zoom and Teams calls, we're certainly not dismissing them, but they're not the future of the live events industry.
No, and they're a great tool to meet people and to keep smaller teams together.
Yep. So we thought we'd kind of split this up and do 4 deep dives, which is quite an American.
It is swimming.
Quite an American thing to talk about, but just
into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, allows us to kind of explore all of these areas in a bit more detail. So, hybrid studios. We thought we'd do the pros and the cons of each of these options from our perspective, and obviously we'll be intrigued to see your questions as well. So, do keep commenting below with your questions, and we'll come back to these in the Q&A if you feel like there's something you want to know about any of these things that we haven't covered. So if we look at the pros of a hybrid studio, well, I'll give this to you, John.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'll go read through the points, but yeah, so essentially it's a TV studio built for corporate delivery. So it's a great space. You've got mounds and mounds of AV gear in, more than you would normally get on a standard production. You've got world of comfort monitors, great lighting. You've got great facilities. meeting rooms and green rooms and kitchens and all that kind of stuff, where actually it becomes much more of a collaborative environment than just turning up onto a stage and doing it. So you get some great engagement because the delivery from somewhere like this is really, really slick. It can, as you're watching the output now, which is being produced in our studio. It's all nicely mixed together. It's got pips. It's got great lighting, great graphics, and it gives you time as well to focus on the message. It's a different way of doing it. So you're not having the traditional 5-minute rehearsals that you normally get on a live conference. You've got plenty of time potentially to get up on stage and really run through everything with your producer. Yeah, AV team on site, absolutely. Great team that know the kit and know the space and know what works in terms of layouts. And reliable internet is really key.
Yeah, we never thought that
So key.
reliable internet connection would be a big con of booking a space.
No, but it's now literally almost the number one. If you were to take a virtual or hybrid production somewhere else, it's the number one
It's
requirement.
that question, how's your internet?
Yeah.
And not only how it is, and how much does it cost?
Yeah, because that was normal, wasn't it? You
Yeah,
expected to pay a lot of money in a corporate venue for a network connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And having done some research into the other studios around in the UK, the quality across the board is really good. Obviously, I think ours is the best, but I'm really biased. But across the board, if you're doing events in London, you need a studio, or Manchester, you needed a studio.
It's a great option.
There's some really good options out there. The cons really for a hybrid studio are that travel, like people you've got to come here. You can't do it from home.
No.
And we wrote this as an option. Like, can it look too slick?
I think that really depends on the sort of messaging that the end client wants to put out there. Should it feel a little less formal? Maybe don't do it in a studio, or maybe you just set the studio environment to sort of offer that. We're kind of formally positioned amongst here, but you could kind of set it out a bit like a daytime TV chat show if you wanted to bring that level of informality to it.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
the last point we wrote down was about like optics and the perception during a lockdown. So we're conscious that although this is allowed to happen, even in the lockdown, some people might think it's the wrong thing to be doing. So there's just one thing to consider, I guess, if you're...
It's who your audience is
Yeah.
and how they're going to
Yeah.
respond to people coming together in this way.
Absolutely.
But long term, we think studios have a really key part to play in the event sector. We've already seen them popping up at venues, for example. I think
I
Hilton.
suppose we'll come on to that shortly,
Yeah.
won't we?
Yeah, true. I've almost gone ahead of myself.
Look at that.
Which leads me smoothly on to my next slide called Hybrid Events on Location. So this I think, and I've given up guessing really what's going to happen in the world, but if I had to guess, I think that the next step to getting events back to a bit more of normality will be that clients will book a venue. So we're obviously in Leicester. So let's say you book the Marriott in Leicester, which has got, say, 300 people as a normal capacity, but they might only invite 100 people. And then the other 200 people that would normally watch the event would be at home watching a stream, watching the event, but at home.
Kind of in the same format as like a TED Talk, where you've got stuff happening live, but people can view in and watch remotely as well.
Yeah, so I feel like this will have a big role in the events
Absolutely.
industry going forwards.
Yeah.
We've put down what we believe are the pros and cons. So I think a big advantage of being at a venue when we're allowed more than 30 people in is going to be that you can have an audience in the room. I feel like that would really help to elevate it.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about having an audience in the room, not only for them, but from a presenter's perspective as well. It feels like today we're here presenting to camera. It feels very, very different to if we were sat here and you were all in front of us.
Yeah.
We can't see your faces. We don't know if you're smiling or frowning.
It was interesting that none of us can agree whether it's better or worse.
No, it's just different.
Different.
I think it depends on how used you are to speaking in front of large numbers of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how used you are at having people laugh at jokes
Yes.
That's where it falls.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
So other things we wrote down, obviously, if you do go to a hybrid event at a venue, we'll bring or whoever you book will bring an AV team with them. So you still get that, you still get the great production value you get from the studio. And obviously, compared to a virtual event or a Zoom or a team call, probably increased engagement as well, because there's more of a sense of it being an event.
yeah, I think so.
The cons, however, of going to a venue to do this kind of stuff is more travel.
Yeah. So not only is it your presenters that have to travel, it's also all of the AV team, all of your management teams. It's lots of lorries, lots of trucks.
And hotel rooms.
Hotel rooms, yeah. It just starts to make more of an impact on your carbon footprint.
But also we put unreliable or costly venue internet. Now this was something that we may have been a problem before, but actually, if it's going to be a thing going forwards, all of the venues will get better internet.
Yeah, I think there's also quite a lot of providers out there that will offer temporary Wi-Fi solutions that we've used on a couple of events before where we haven't had particularly strong Wi-Fi. We did a job at Doncaster Race Course that required quite a substantial amount of
That was a lot of internet.
Can we have an amount of internet?
A box of internet.
Yeah, we needed a lot, so they had to come up and bring it. So it is possible, and you can do virtual and hybrid events on location in the world. It just needs thinking about and costing accordingly.
Yeah. The other potential downside of going on location is going to be if there are any more localised lockdowns. So if you book a venue at booking at St George's Hall in Liverpool, for example, and Liverpool gets put into a tier 3, tier 4, tier 7, whatever they're going to make going forwards, this could be a problem for those kind of events. And then one of the things I think what might be a problem is also guest list politics.
Yeah, I think you just have to be mindful that if you are down selecting to, say, 25% of invites are allowed on site, who are those 25% of people? Is it the people that live closest to you, to the venue? Is it the people that are most senior in the team? I think you're always going to ruffle some feathers in saying you're invited, but you have to stay at home. And it might work the other way around, where more people want to stay at home and don't want to come out, in which case you've paid for the expense of a beautiful venue and there's no one in it.
Yeah.
So it's just something to think about.
And then, I don't know if you want to talk about this, John, value for money.
I think value for money is a really good point, because it depends on the level of production value you want. We've been working with quite a few clients at the moment looking at on-location options versus studio options, and it's been really split down the middle. Some clients have come in here and thought this is amazing, it looks fantastic, it's all ready to go, and it's a really economical option, even compared to bringing you on site for doing something much more simple. An on-location event is always going to be more costly.
You've always got local crew, you've always got trucks.
Yeah.
You've always got to then plan, just things like do the floor plans and stuff.
Yeah, a lot more pre-production, but also, just longer days. You've got to go and build it and take it out.
You also have to feed everyone, and not just the crew. If you're inviting any amount of delegates, you've got to then start considering about their catering, their hotel, their accommodations, their travel, all of those little elements. And then if you're starting to get bands in as well with dramatic riders, it's all of those pieces that come into play. It's just about weighing up whether you want to go that route or you want to strip it back.
Having said all those cons, I do think that this will be a big thing.
It's the next. Sure. It's the next step to getting it back on.
Getting back to some sort of normality.
Yes.
Because there's nothing like being at an event with people.
No, we miss it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, these are great, but an award ceremony with people at a venue.
It's the atmosphere.
Yeah. The buzz.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you don't want to go to a venue or a studio, Ben, what can you do?
Oh, you've almost brought me onto my next slide. So then, virtual events. Virtual events isn't something back in March, April that I thought would be a really big thing, if I'm being completely honest.
I was with you.
I think we were hoping it wouldn't be a big thing because we'd come out the other side quicker than we have done.
Yeah. and we built studio first.
Yeah.
I guess we had a choice. We could have either built a studio first or virtual studios, and we built a hybrid studio thinking that that would win. Not win, but would be the most popular. And actually, it's probably more virtual events than hybrid events. What do you reckon?
Well, I think we've realised that there really is pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
And doing a virtual event allows you to bring in presenters that you wouldn't traditionally bring in.
What you've done there, you got straight onto the slide. You got to the pro slide without even looking at the slides.
That's professional presenter.
Carry on,
right
go.
There.
What other pros are there of a virtual event?
Now I've looked at it. Yeah, lots of presenters.
Yeah, I mean, even this week you're working with, or next week you're working with a presenter that probably we wouldn't ever be able to get in for a live
Quite
job,
a few of
would
them,
we?
in fact. Yeah, and the numbers of presenters would have been extremely costly in travel and very difficult to schedule. There's lots of people overseas who have been able to be brought in.
The ability to pre-record as well is certainly
Yes.
something that you can do with a virtual event. Just takes a lot of the pressure off, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we've definitely learned that there's a lot more goes into before the event. With virtual, you need an awful lot of time and organisation to get everything looking really slick and everyone in. But yeah, pre-recording is great because it allows you to work with presenters' diaries and work with producers' diaries and get that done at a convenient time.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're certainly more cost-effective than a virtual event. Sorry, than a hybrid event, because you're paying for the people and the computers to run the virtual event and the software and stuff, but you're not paying for any of this.
Yeah.
Which does...
It does bring it down a little bit. I was surprised at how small that gap is.
Yes.
Based on quoting some quite elaborate events here, delivering the same thing virtually, barely anything in it. But if you're doing something slightly more simplistic, then I think virtual is probably the way to go.
That's the key thing, that actually it can be very tempting to make a virtual event really, really complex because you can.
Yes.
And that can make it quite costly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the production value of a virtual event is really good. You get these same layouts that we're using today, obviously completely customizable for your event.
In fact, it's the same system.
Yeah.
All you'd be doing differently really is the three boxes that show on this view would be remote presenters.
Yes.
Or pre-records or...
And you can have a lot of fun, I think, with virtual events, and same for hybrid as well. When you're talking about that branding, there's so much that can be done on that stream feed in terms of multiple different looks throughout one whole event. If you're doing if you're doing a festival style with a different sort of core topic every day, perhaps those have different identities and they're broken up in those streaming surrounds. They don't just have to be static as well.
I think the core message really for a virtual event is it's not just a Zoom call.
No, it's really not. No, it's so much more than that, and it allows you to get sort of proper broadcast standard production.
Yeah.
Out to the audience with remote presenters. It's a great thing.
It is.
And to put it into context, that we built the hybrid studio, and then we built a virtual studio. I got kicked out of my office. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see the photos.
Sorry about that, John.
Yeah.
No, not John, Ben.
I got kicked out of my office, and they basically kitted it out as a virtual studio. We've got so many virtual studio bookings that we're currently in the process of getting rid of our wood workshop area in a warehouse and making, what's it going to be? Two virtual?
Two further virtual studios, one of which is going to be able to sort of bolt onto the hybrid studio to do sort of quite intense stream production. Then we're going to have an edit room, a tech check room, so that's for presenter onboarding. And then we're looking at a small green screen studio as well for more simplistic pre-records.
So yeah, virtual certainly is...
It's a thing.
It's definitely a thing.
And I think it's here to stay, and that's why we're doing this.
Well, it's like you mentioned earlier, why would you go and travel 2 hours to have a meeting with someone when you could do it from home?
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thinking applies to a lot of events. I think less so for award ceremonies and those moments where you really need to have that immediate connection. I think they'll come back, but for things like strategic updates, AGMs, is a really easy way to get people together and just deliver a very concise message.
Yeah, I've never been to a medical conference. I'm not a doctor, but it does seem bonkers when you think about it that you'd get 500 doctors from around the world would fly to Glasgow, for example, to watch one other doctor talk about stuff. When that can just be done virtually.
Yeah. I think when people will talk about that, why would you get everyone together? It's for those networking opportunities and for the chats and discussion and Q&A.
Yes.
But that can all be delivered virtually as well through platforms.
Yeah, and we'll talk about platforms in a minute.
There's definitely some cons.
Yes.
Although
Yeah, we've definitely learned, not the hard way as such, but it's been a challenge.
it's been a learning curve.
A learning curve, that's how we're going to call
And
it.
the tech side hasn't actually been the most difficult bit. It's been perceptions of, presenters' perceptions and sometimes client perceptions, and that because it's virtual, it should be easy and it should be quick and it should be cheap.
free.
And it should be free or not much money at all.
When in fact the opposite is true of most of those. But yeah, we've come up against some obstacles along the way, such as you're really at the mercy of the internet as a whole and the presenter's internet connection and their tech abilities.
You can have as many tech checks as you want at a certain time of day, but if your event starts at 7:30 when everyone's getting home and switching Netflix on, the presenter's Wi-Fi is going to come right down and you're kind of a bit stuck.
Yeah. But yeah, even things like firewall and configurations at their end, and you are limited by their cameras, by their webcams. So you can do things like sending out kits to people, and fancy boxes that have got really posh cameras in them that you can control remotely. But generally, you're working with a webcam.
And even with a fancy box, it still plugs into their home Sky broadband or
exactly.
BT broadband home internet.
Yeah.
But I think it comes back to what is required for each individual event. Like for the majority of things, that will be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
There's some key moments probably throughout most of your client's year that will require something more. And it's at those points that people might consider a hybrid option or come into a studio and do the bulk of it, the day-to-day, the monthly updates via virtual.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it boils down to where can people watch all of these events, both the hybrid events and the virtual events. So there's multiple options really, but I wanted to do a slide about platforms. Platforms isn't something that we knew anything about really before. Well, I certainly didn't. Did you know about platforms?
No, not really. No.
I think it just kind of comes when a client asks, well, where's the stream going to go?
Yeah.
We're thinking all about the virtual event, all about the studio event, but then you've got to go, hang on, where are we showing this? And is it secure?
Yeah.
And who can see it? And how do we invite them? And what can they do on it? And you think, oh God, we better start learning about platforms as well.
Traditionally, when we've done live streaming, it's been almost as a bolt-on to a main conference production, and it's gone out to something like YouTube or to Vimeo, and they might have had a password-protected link, but there was no emphasis on a whole place for that to go.
As it was a bolt-on as well, you didn't have that requirement for the interaction that's now expected and necessary to make a success of a virtual event.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is where the platforms come into play. I mean, my team spent a lot of time looking at so many different types of platforms, and there's some amazing options out there. Some really incredible stuff that people have developed, and of course, with that comes a really incredible
Cost
as well.
I think we just say it.
It's just really expensive. I think there's all these like awesome AI features, and they can say, all right, you watch this session, so perhaps you might be interested in buying this handbag. Like, there's all sorts of crazy tracking that they've got programmed in there, and it's dead impressive. But at the end of the day, for our clients and the kind of events that we need to be working on, what was key was having something that was really simple to navigate, really easy to brand for each specific event, and didn't cost the earth. So we kind of put a bit of a gamble on and said, we can build that.
Yeah, in classic Premiere style, we kind of did
how hard can it be?
Well, how hard can that be?
With a deadline, of course.
3-week deadline.
With a 3-week deadline to deliver something for one of our biggest clients.
But we did it.
Yeah.
We did it. We partnered up with a great tech company, and
They're super.
Yeah,
Let's
like,
be honest.
so
They're
good.
super geeky company.
Yeah.
They're perfect. They're exactly what we needed. We were able to say, "Can you make something that does this, and this?" And they went, "No problem."
So what we've ended up with is Pvent, which is our Premier platform. It's by no means the best thing on the market, but it is by no means the most expensive thing on the market, and we're finding that it works really well with what we need to be able to offer. And obviously, because we're working with these like wonderful nerds to make it, as new requirements are coming up, we can be like, "Oi, can you add this on?" Or, "Oh, we might need a functionality for a charity totalizer," or, "We need people to be able to sit at virtual dinner tables." And we're just adding to it as and when requirements come.
I think my main problem with the platform market was I couldn't spend £10,000 of a client's money on what is in effect a website where you can have a bit of a chat, a poll, and watch a video for one day. Like, that's a deposit on a house, which is just mental. But let's have a quick look at the platforms in general. What are the pros and the cons of event platforms? Because it's something that is brand new to the whole events industry, really. Like, this wasn't really a thing before March.
No.
So I guess the pros, things you can do on a platform that you can't do on Vimeo or YouTube, which are your standard go-to other options.
Well, some of these things can be done on Vimeo and YouTube, but not in quite the same way.
Yeah.
So you've obviously got your chat function. You can have comments at the bottom underneath your YouTube video. But I think when you're on a platform, you've got more of a sense of reporting out the other end of that chat. Is how I'm quite enjoying that function at the moment, is the tracking and seeing how people have interacted and having all that data to give back to your clients at the end. I think it's quite exciting. Obviously, you don't have that level of analytics when you're using something like Vimeo or YouTube.
Yeah.
We've built in modules like a polling module. There's a Q&A module. For Q&A has become a really big part of a live virtual hybrid event.
Yeah, and I mean, it's even if it's a pre-record session, typically there's a live Q&A at the end of it.
I think if you're expecting people to sit at home and your client's saying, "Oh, we want people to be really, really engaged," you have to give some sort of two-way communications with your audience and your presenter, so that Q&A becomes more important than ever, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, don't forget, we'll be doing a Q&A at the end of this session. So if you've got any questions you think we haven't covered off so far, just put them in the comments bit, and we'll get those answered for you as soon as we finish these slides. Yeah. So other things that platforms can do, they allow you to get really good feedback, even based on a per session. So after each session, you can kind of say, "Well, how was that for you?" And you get live results.
Yeah, you can put little calls to action dotted throughout your content. So it might be that at the end of each session, like Ben says, you want like a 5-star rating to pop up, and people can select on a quick basis how that session went, and with the option to leave feedback as well. And I think it's quite nice to be able to take the temperature of the event in real time, and then perhaps feedback to speakers down the line saying, "All right, the guys, they really sort of hated that first session, didn't go down very well. Maybe you want to think about tweaking these bits of content." So it's quite nice to be able to tweak and edit your sessions as they go.
Absolutely.
In that way.
Breakout rooms, I think, are going to be really key. So over Christmas, we're going to be doing a lot of Christmas parties, and people will be sat in virtual tables of 10, 12 people on the platform.
Yeah, so they can all sort of interact as they would at a normal dinner, although very separately. But they can also be used really well as places as part of a conference, for roundtable discussions, for smaller, more specific sessions. If there's a multi-choice agenda that people need to choose, well, you all know what breakouts are.
Yeah.
So
It works in the same way.
works in the exact same way, yeah.
And I also
Wear your pajama bottoms, so slightly better.
I also feel like an event on a platform as opposed to a YouTube or a Vimeo feels more like an event.
That's the big one for me. Is
That sense of occasion.
you're otherwise sending them to Teams or Zoom or...
Which they're on all the time.
Yeah.
I think security is quite a thing as well. Obviously, all of your platforms should be penetration tested, and everyone will be given individual login names, and we'll have event-specific passwords.
We've done a lot of work with the GDPR aspect of this to make sure everything's GDPR compliant.
And it's all optional as well for passwords. I think you can have something that would be open to everyone, you can just turn up and do it, but then you'd lose out, like I said earlier, on that back-end analytics. The more specific you can be about who exactly is on the platform, the more that information can then inform your future events.
And also depends on the content of the conference as well. If you're doing a company update and you're a global brand, you don't want to be talking about, if you're McDonald's, you don't want Burger King knowing your sales figures. So definitely put that behind the password.
Yeah.
And obviously the ability to brand it is really key.
Yeah. Plenty of space for sponsorship and exhibitions as well.
To say sponsorship, event organisers at the minute really need a good way of getting some money in.
Yeah.
So if you can sell sponsorship to an online event, happy days.
It's all over the place. You could have separate, like an exhibitor foyer area where people could go and visit booths, interact with exhibitioners. You can obviously charge them for that space.
Yeah.
But it could just be as simple as on your main platform page, you could have just a container with an advert basically for them and a call to action.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're a big fan of platforms. As Frank said, there's lots of really, really good ones out there.
A huge amount.
Yeah.
The thing is that a lot of them have features you don't need and might miss out features you do need. We found it really hard to find something that ticked all the boxes we needed for the type of events we produce.
Yeah, which is
that's fair.
In the main corporate events.
You ended up going to sort of that level, and it covered everything and a lot more.
You only needed that much of it.
And came with the price tag.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
And the cons, we just put down the cost because you've got to pay for a platform.
Yeah.
There's normally a cost to rent it for the day almost and to set it up for your event, and then a cost per user to use the platform. And when we were developing our platform, I thought, why is there going to be a cost? We really pushed back and said, I don't think there should be a cost to watch a video. But then by the time we spoke to the nerds and kind of figured out why there are costs, now we get it. And it's just a lot of bandwidth, isn't it, really, John?
Yeah, I mean, P-Event runs on, it runs in AWS, and it's all very elastic and it scales up, and we run too many instances for each event, so we've got scaling capacity in it. Actually, the costs of hosting something like this can add up really, really quickly.
Yeah, so that's why there's a per user cost.
Yeah.
So moving on, engagement.
So, I think it's really, really important for people when they're thinking about doing a live or virtual or hybrid event to think, what is the key message that people need to take away from it? I think now you're not being bamboozled with light shows and there's no opportunity for a balloon drop. There's lots of distractions on a live event that just don't exist in a virtual space. So the real focus is that message and how that's delivered. And we've kind of had a bit of a thought about it, and it basically it boils down to storytelling rather than a collection of points or moments that people want to think about separately. This virtual event should be a complete story, and it needs to be presented in that way as well. It needs to keep mixing things up a little bit. It needs to keep surprising people, and I think that by putting a lot of time aside to focus on what that agenda is and how you build into the agenda those moments of surprise and wow moments, you're going to come away with a much better experience for your user and a lot more potential for engagement as well. I think it's quite important for consistent and professional branding to be a key feature.
Yeah, from invitation.
From beginning, yeah.
From invitation to post-event.
Yeah. So your delegate comms, they want to have the same look and feel, that same slick professional branding, the event needs to have as much of an identity as it would if it was a live event.
Yeah.
I don't think you can scale that back. Obviously, you won't be producing as much like venue print and branding, but you just have to apply that way of thinking into a digital space to make it have that same importance, to elevate it from that Zoom call. I think it's really important with delegate comms as well to keep in touch with people at multiple points after they've been invited. Keep checking in with them. Maybe give them little teasers about what's going to happen. Maybe you run pre-event competitions. Maybe you do little challenges that they might have to go out and record something and then feed it back.
Yeah.
And then people look at it during the actual event. Just things to keep people's appetites whetted throughout that build-up.
The drama with any sort of virtual event is people's attention can so easily be taken to something else. If you're watching a virtual event at home on your laptop, it needs to be good. It's not good enough, but it needs to make people not want to look at their phone and check Facebook or their TikTok or whatever social media they're using in a minute. It's got to be better than their other options.
Yeah.
Whereas in a venue, it's kind of frowned upon to get your phone out and be looking.
We've got a captive audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. But I think when someone's at home in their office, if they've got their emails open here and you're trying to get their attention on this screen, it becomes quite difficult, which I think is why you have to think about mixing your mediums up a little bit. Maybe you start investing more in video and get in contact or build a relationship with a really good camera crew and an editor, and that can go out and make exciting little VTs for you to dot in and out of your presentations rather than just stick to a man and a PowerPoint.
Yep.
It needs to be engaging. Think about having multiple camera angles to break it up a little bit. I think if it's exciting for the eye, then you're more likely to keep watching.
Yeah, things have just moved on, aren't they? In the same way that we very rarely now go and do a conference with a projector and a screen.
Yeah.
That this is the new way of doing things. People's attention span is a lot shorter, so we've got to it's got to be short and snappy. And
I think that comes into a lot of the content design. We support our clients with PowerPoint design, content design as well, and we sort of encourage them to reduce the amount of content that's on their slide and just stick to the bold statements, stick to the important headlines, and then if there's supporting, facts and figures and reams of graphs, add that as an attachment on your platform to download at a later date, because people aren't going to sit and hover and look at a graph projecting for the next 50 years. Yeah. They'll get bored and switch off. So keep that exciting, keep it on brand, and keep it as bold, simple messaging. You're condensing a 6-hour day potentially down into a 2-hour session, aren't you? So
yeah, we've certainly found that the virtual and hybrid events have been a lot shorter. What would be a full day session, and now 2.5 hours. Yeah. Can we talk about my favourite thing?
What's your favourite thing?
Catering, food. So we've certainly found that catering is not dead in this new virtual hybrid world.
Not dead at all.
The caterers have done a really good job of pivoting to allow us to be in a position where we can send some amazing food to clients.
We've kind of found that there's a variety of different levels of catering that you can offer. Obviously, option one is none, which is nice and cost effective.
Yep.
You could send out
cheap and cheerful like that.
Yeah, we do quite a lot of things like coffee breaks. So as part of a pre-event pack that might go out to everyone that's registered to attend with, like a really nice printed brochure or something to make them feel like, yes, I am at the event. I've got my program. I'm ready to go. Maybe you send them a really nice box of brownies and a nice mug and some lovely coffee grounds as well as an afternoon snack. Or you could level that up slightly and do what we're doing with another one of our clients for an event in November, which is send out a full 4-course meal with wines and cocktails to every attendee.
As well as a whole variety of gifts.
Presents, yes. So.
But one thing we definitely think people should consider when organising this kind of stuff is, with the gifts, if it's not great, don't send it out.
No.
I feel like people can run a risk of, if you just send someone a rubbishy something made of plastic that's going to break after 2 uses, and a bag of nuts to eat during the stream, you're almost better off not sending anything at all. because you don't want to devalue the people you're trying to impress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's certainly something we've had a conversation with a few clients who wanted to do not the best gifts, and we've had to try and talk them around to...
Well, I think as an industry, we're a lot more conscious of waste now.
Yes, and that's the reason behind this.
I think people are more inclined to think, oh, but what out of this pack is recyclable, and how do we tell people what they can recycle?
Yeah.
Which isn't a conversation that you might have thought of having.
A year ago,
a couple of
certainly
years
not
ago.
5 years ago, we would never be
No.
talking about only sending people stuff that they can use for a long time.
Yeah. So it's stuff to do. And I think yeah, as long as it's relevant and as
Yeah.
long as it adds value, fun, send it. Great. I love a present through the post. But if it's pointless and naff, probably wouldn't bother.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's don't send people Christmas crackers. Well,
They're really good ones.
well, unless the toys in the middle are the really good ones, like a little screwdriver set, which I still use.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Love a screwdriver set from a cracker. They're really, really small ones.
Yeah.
Back on track.
Oh, yeah. Just wanted to touch base lightly on entertainment and how that is still very possible. We're still booking bands, we're still getting magicians in, but we're just doing that in a really different way. And a lot of that is to do with the agenda and how it's built. And we're not thinking about 45-minute sets from a band in between, first course and dinner. And desserts anymore. We're thinking about how can we take that band and punctuate the event with small little snips to keep it exciting and keep it lively.
In the same way you'd see, if you watch the James Corden Late Late Show, he has a band in the studio.
Yeah.
So we've...
Take it as a house band.
Yeah, have it as a house band. So we've got events coming up where there will be bands in the studio doing the stings for the awards or playing along funny things. If the presenters make a mistake, they will do mistake noises.
And the same true of like magicians as well. We're not having a roaming magician walking through your drinks reception anymore. What we're doing is having magicians drop into breakout rooms and do short 5-minute sets with small groups of people, doing fun little bits of sleight of hands. You still get the wow and excitement. And if anything, I think it's sometimes more impressive because they're able to do it through a screen and still know what you're going to say and what card you've picked. I don't know how they do it. It's very possible.
I was really sceptical when we started talking about online magicians. I thought, this is going to be rubbish. But you and the team and some clients have had online demos. Yeah. And it's been amazing.
Yeah, it has. I think a lot of the stuff we're seeing as well when it comes to entertainment is sort of moving from a sit back and watch piece of entertainment to an interactive one. We're doing quite a lot of exciting stuff with producers from TV shows where we are basically redoing game shows from the studio.
Yeah.
Basically,
like that's it.
Yeah, it is a full game show, and it's with all of the production companies that are responsible for producing them in the real time, so they look and feel exactly the same, but it's with clients as contestants, which is quite fun.
You get the licenses to use all the noises and the software that goes behind the show, which is it's something we've done in the real world at venues, but it's even more fun to do it in this new digital world.
Loads of fun.
Is there anything else we want to talk about engagement?
Oh, should we talk about emojis? Because we've got a little emoji picture.
Yeah, if we put the emoji thing back on, something we built into the platform was the ability for users watching an event to be able to give live feedback at any one time throughout the event, and us to be able to track it as well. So if something gets announced, say a client announces a new bonus scheme, for example, and you get a load of thumbs up, then you know it's gone down well. Whereas if all of the thumbs are down, then you might have to rethink your bonus scheme for the next time you launch one. So yeah, emojis are
pretty fun.
Emojis are pretty cool. We did an event the other week, and how many emojis did we send?
Oh, a lot.
Was it 3 million?
I think it was 5.
5 million emojis.
It was enough to almost cause a problem.
We had 500 people watching the event, and every time somebody clicked an emoji, that emoji went out to 500 people.
Yeah. They were very engaged.
Yes, absolutely. So the next slide is all about the lessons learned. So all of the things that we've learned over the last 6 months, which hopefully will help you when you're planning your events.
Yeah.
Who wants to take timings?
Oh, is that a Frank one?
Well, I think everything just takes a lot longer than you might think it does when you're doing a virtual or hybrid event. I think we used to be able to rock up at a live job, think, yeah, we've got half an hour, we'll probably try and squeak a sound check in, maybe a quick rehearsal, flick through the slides, but it's just not that simple anymore. I think because you've got so many different layers to consider,
Well,
it just needs running through, it just needs rehearsing.
Even just here, we've got 4 cameras recording us at the minute. And we'll need to think about what goes on each camera and choose which shot for which scene almost.
Yeah.
It's just, whereas normally you walk on the stage, the audience can see you. Simple.
Yeah. And you might have an iMac, a big screen to make you bigger, but it's normally 1 or 2 shots, and the purpose is to make you bigger, not necessarily, you don't have a choice about what it looks like.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot more design.
Yeah.
And a lot more consideration in terms of layouts, colour schemes. What might look good on a background might not look good with your layout on your stream.
Yeah.
And how does that layout on your stream sit within your event page as well?
Yeah.
On the platform? There's lots of little design choices to make along the planning journey, and it just takes longer. But as long as you schedule enough time, and whatever company you work with in terms of AV production, they should make you aware of this. They should let you know exactly how much time they need for presenter checks, for technical rehearsals, and they should give you a clear sort of progress plan or tick list of when they need things by in advance.
Yeah, absolutely. John, you can take AV staff. That's right, it'll be your street, this one.
Yeah, smashing. Well, we've got the note here of you'll have more AV techs than at a live event, and it's very, very true. Because, like Frank was saying, there's more layers. So now we've got, in the hybrid studio, for example, we've got lighting, we've got sound, then we've got vision mixer, typically, who's cutting the cameras and talking to them and framing all the shots. Then you've got someone managing the screen content, because that could be quite dynamic. You might have pips and stuff going on there, and change of content. You might have a graphics operator, you might have a VT operator, but then a producer or show caller as you normally would. But on top of that, you've got a full camera crew. Then you've got to stream it out, and you need someone who's operating the production system, which we use vMix. So vMix operator, then let's say you want to bring in some remote people, that's probably another person to wrangle that at the right times. And someone to manage the stream out, and
it becomes very people heavy, doesn't it?
It does, really heavy.
And we tried, when we were learning how to do this, we did a few like internal events where we try and do it ourselves, like internal company staff meetings, where we would sit on the stage and John would be kind of running around trying to do all of these jobs.
Like, literally the first one we did, I thought, oh, fine, I'll have Companion on my phone, and I was just sort of, and it
didn't quite work, did it?
It was a bit tricky, yeah, and it makes you realise that just because it's virtual or hybrid doesn't mean that you need any less people. You need a bigger team.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been one of the biggest things. Also, the role of a producer.
Critical.
Absolutely, undeniably important.
Yeah, really important.
They're like the glue that will hold your whole event together. You can't, without a producer, no one's really calling the shots, and you can't just wing it on a virtual event. It's not like a live one. You need someone cueing every single moment, else it just doesn't feel slick.
We're lucky. We work with quite a few producers that we've worked with for the last few years, really, haven't we? And they're epic. They just boss people around, which is perfect.
It's like firm but fair, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like all of these AV techs that are now in the room need one person to tell them what they want to happen.
Yeah.
It's just direct.
And the client needs one point of contact.
Yes. So yeah, totally key, the producers. The other thing really is auto cue.
I think it's something we used to use on live events, and I'm sure we will again in the future, but it was not always there.
Maybe 10% of jobs with auto cue?
10, 15. People quite often had, they have a script, they put it on a lectern, and you stand behind your lectern and you do it. But in a studio, you need people to look down the lens of the camera, which I'm really bad at doing.
I'm terrible.
Yeah, I'm terrible.
So I'm looking sideways.
We haven't got auto cue today.
There we go. I'm now looking down the lens of the camera that's pointing at me. And if I'd got an auto cue hood on that and I was reading my script, I could focus. It actually takes a lot of pressure off, doesn't it? It allows you to get more done in a session. Someone's just got to focus on the camera read their script. You can make changes on the fly, and yeah,
They're great.
it is great, and you can put it on multiple cameras as well. So if you're trying to get people to present to different cameras, we have tally lights in the studio, so you can see which camera's up next and which camera's live now. So the presenter might move to the one that's up next, and you cut over to them, and they can keep reading their script. So that works really well.
Absolutely. Moving down the list, then, John, do you want hair and makeup, or should I give that to Frank?
Or probably not me.
Oh, but you're so glamorous. Well, I mean, lights are really, really hot and humans sweat. So hair and makeup is kind of unavoidable to a certain extent if you don't want people to look very shiny. But the main point about it...
I have no hair or makeup on today.
I think
You've got some hair.
I've got hair.
You've got some hair, yeah.
Yeah.
You're very lovely.
No makeup, though. No.
I think you've got a bit of battle paint on, haven't you? You've got a bit of war paint. It makes you feel ready for the day, and you're not worrying about how shiny you look, because I'm kind of blinded by the lights now, but I don't think I'm too shiny, which is quite nice. But I think the main reason to get hair and makeup in is for continuity.
Yes.
And that's true of wardrobe as well. With a lot of the sessions being pre-recorded, those pre-records might take place over a number of different days, but if you want the event to feel live, you have to really think about getting that same look every single time. And a hair and makeup artist, they're just going to do it the same every single time.
Yeah, we've got a studio. We've got a space upstairs where it kind of gets taken over with hair and makeup on live studio days, and they kind of sit themselves in there, and it's like a conveyor belt. People go in, get done up, come downstairs.
Yeah. Yep. And it's perfect. And I think in terms of wardrobe as well, what we really need people to understand before they get to site is there's a massive wall here. And if you've got a great big red wall behind you, and you decide to put on a red dress or a red top, you might just look like a floating head. So it's about making those informed decisions on wardrobe. And yeah, I guess one of the top tips would be not to wear green.
Lesson learned about wearing green.
Yeah, don't wear green, else you can quite easily be chroma keyed out.
Which brings us on to the next point about pre-recording.
Which is good.
Yeah, we love pre-records.
Yeah.
Pre-records are amazing.
I think we can let people into the... It's not a secret as such, is it?
No.
So today it is actually... It's 10 to 3 in our world now on Tuesday. So we're recording this in the past. I guess that's one way of...
I guess so.
One way of looking at it. So we've done it this way, so it allows us to then edit out all of our really, really bad bits. And there'll still be some bad bits in here, I'm sure.
Actually, there hasn't been as many really bad bits as I thought.
No?
Should I do some really good swearing now?
No, don't swear.
Well, I think the main joy of pre-recording is that we've been able to fit this around our schedule, because I'm not sure if we've mentioned, but we've actually gotten really busy with all of these virtual events. So this was the tiny little window of opportunity we had as the three of us to get together and actually do something.
Yeah, so we'll be jumping live. So you're watching this now. We're probably just up, because we're coming to the end, we're just about to come downstairs and get ready for the live Q&A. But yeah, it's Tuesday, but it's Wednesday. So pre-recording has been a really key part. And actually we've gone to venues and events where we've planned to do it all live, and actually the clients have said, well, why don't I just pre-record it?
Yeah, I think it's true of virtual, it's true of hybrid. It doesn't, if there is no reason for it to be live, then pre-recording is great, because it takes the stress off, gives you more diary options, allows you to get probably a more polished result. You know you can get all the mistakes out.
Yeah. One of the reasons...
You want to leave a few in, though, else it doesn't feel good.
You don't want it to be completely
wooden. You don't want to be
but...
robots.
Yeah, tonight when I do the editing, it's not going to be... We're not taking out all of the ums and the ahs.
No.
But we'll take out a few bits we've got wrong, for sure.
Yeah.
And then book early, which sounds... It's good that we're in this situation, but I think a lot of other events companies are also in this situation where there's now a huge demand for virtual and hybrid events, and we're already having to say to clients on some days that we're full.
Yeah.
Once the studio's booked.
Which is a new concept for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost, because we don't like to say no.
We don't like to say no, and normally what we would do is we would have enough kit to go and do 2 or 3 jobs at the same time. But we only have one studio.
At the moment.
Yeah, there is a
Yeah.
plan to potentially build a second
Yeah.
version of this, either at a venue or in another warehouse, just that way really.
There's also a lack of freelancers.
Yeah.
You know, the events industry relies heavily on freelancers, and bless them, they've not had a good time of it recently. And so many of them have been left with no choice but to move on from this industry, either temporarily or permanently. So there's a bit of a staff shortage in some areas, and we're all working from the same pool of people, ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people. It's a real shame to lose sound engineers to go and be electricians or carpenters.
But it makes sense, you know. Gotta
Yeah.
make a wedge. And if we're an unviable industry, thanks, Rishi.
Yeah, we are an unviable industry apparently,
Yeah.
which is quite traumatic because we definitely aren't unviable.
Nope.
And then finally, we should have done this. We should have rehearsed.
We should.
Yeah. It's more of a do what we say, not what we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to tell you to rehearse.
Otherwise, you'll end up with this.
What happened was for us is we made some brief notes of what we were going to talk about over the weekend. You knocked it up into a deck last night. We spent this morning kind of making the studio bits work, so all the layouts and the colour schemes and choosing a wall backdrop. And then we filmed this in what? Was
Couple of hours.
5 to 3 now, you've got to go in a minute. But you'll be back because it's Tuesday.
I will.
Maybe like 3 hours? So it's probably taken us 3 hours, and this will probably be like a 40-minute presentation.
Lovely.
So everything does take longer.
It does.
So I think if I press the next slide, what happens, Frank?
I think we'll be having a Q&A.
Let's have a look, see what it says. Oh, Q&A.
Hey.
Perfect. So we will see you in a second, and we'll be live, ready to do all your questions. So hopefully you're all still there watching and you've got questions for us.
And will we have an outfit change? That's
This is the
that's
thing.
the shocker.
We may change our clothes and
All positions.
or position, just to really mess it up. But yeah, we'll see you in a second for all of your questions.